Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back, everyone. It is something that is guaranteed in life. There are a few things, and I'm sure you can come up with a few, but one of them we often don't ponder that often. There is change. Change is going to happen. How do you adapt to change? How do you find that resilience to move on? And a lot of times that change can be connected to a conflict. We're going to talk about those challenges today and so much more with somebody who helps people move their lives through that, specifically people who are executives, owners of businesses, C-suite executives, or just individuals want to up their game and want to deal with some change. Reggie Bullock is an amazing executive coach. He's back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm well, Steve. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to have you back here. And this whole change thing, until you're pressed to make a major change in your life, I feel, and I want your opinion on this, sometimes you don't know the magnitude of what a change is unless you're forced to make that change. You feel the same?
Definitely. I think that it's one thing to look at it from the outside, but when you're going through it and you're feeling all of what that entails, especially if it entails pain, it's your weight to carry. And it's real. And the interesting thing about it is when I talk to a lot of my clients and I watch what they go through, whether it be a new position or terminated from a position, or in some cases, family situations, or, just relationships, right? One of the things that I try to see is, where are they in their choice to change? Are they actually choosing to change, or are they reluctant to change? And so, again, that's usually the starting point, because most people, to your point, they may not want to change until they're in it. And then once you're in it, you might go through the various stages, and including denial. And that's not change. And so one of the things that I often say to people is, get to the other side. No matter what it looks like, you got to get to the other side. And it gives them something to look forward to into the future, as opposed to them just stuck on the present and the past.
I like what you said there, especially the looking forward to it. Yep, change can be challenging, but sometimes you need to make that change to get to something else, another destination, another job, whatever it is. Doesn't even matter. But right. Finding the positivity in it. And I'm not, I'm as a realist, I'm not saying put on rose-colored glasses and just pretend everything's okay. No, you're probably going through some heartache, some pain to get to that change. But many times there is pluses on that side, right?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned positivity. For instance, I always talk about the 3 Qs, right? You have IQ, EQ, and PQ. PQ is positive intelligence. When you talk about positive intelligence, you operate from 2 sides of the brain. You can either operate from the sage side, or you can operate from the saboteur side. When you operate from the sage side, you're operating in the positive. You're looking at the future. You're trying to see, what's the good in this, because ultimately that's what you want. You don't want to stay in the saboteur of your brain to just constantly, I talk about those curmudgeons in the Muppet Show, the 2 old men on the balcony overlooking the stage, the curmudgeons. They have nothing good to say about anything, right? Yep. And so you don't want to end up with that type of mindset. So when you're adapting to change and you're using your resilience to do so, it requires a mindset reset. The things that got you to where you are not always the things that's going to get you to where you want to go. And so part of that change is, do you even know where you want to go? Do you even have a vision for yourself? Are you thinking about the art of the possible? Are you just so stuck in the mud and in the quicksand that you can't even see yourself into the future? And so adapting to change and being resilient to get back up. I mean, I'm a martial artist, fifth degree martial artist. You don't get to be 5th degree without getting hit a few times. Right. So, if I had to just quit when first time I got hit, well, the 100,000 other times I got hit, I would have never even had that experience. So that's the other thing. When I'm coaching my clients on change, I also try to help them to see and embrace the experience. the journey, right? Life is a journey. And you don't get experience from getting everything perfect. You don't get experience from getting it right all the time. You get experience from making mistakes, from screwing it up, and from getting back up. And so to that end, if you want to be stronger, you want to be a more powerful leader, you want to be that resilient leader, then you're going to have to go through the challenges that turn into experience. You know, most people at some point in their life are going to go through financial challenges, right? Nobody's perfect. We make mistakes. And those financial challenges could take us for a loop. But then when you get to the other side of that, you have experiences. And so change is significant in leadership because not only do leaders have to negotiate and navigate change in their own headspace, they got to help their team, their organization. And as you can see, the United States is going through a lot of change. And so all of these leaders that are in these positions that, you know, for the past 4 years, 10 years, everything was business as usual. There could be a lot of change on the table for them and their employees. And so adapting to change with resilience is not easy, but it's necessary.
Do you feel that the only way you can get resilience or build on your resilience is to go through challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's the only way. I'm always reluctant to unilaterally say this is the only way, but I'll say this. If you don't go through challenges, you don't have those experiences, then what do you have, right? And so you might get to the other side of change, but you might not have gotten there in the way that you actually have experience. You could have accidentally got there. Somebody else could have gotten you there. So when it pops up again, it could actually throw you for a loop because you've never really done it for yourself. You didn't go through that. So, you know, again, I'm always reluctant to unilaterally say yes to a statement like that. However, you know, how are you going to know if something's hot if you don't get burnt at least once?
Yeah,
Right?
like it, and it's been said before that how do you know if something is good and fantastic in life? If we just all live this, just a flat line right there, there was no variation, you wouldn't know the fantastic good part of life unless you dealt with the not so good part of life, because it'd all be, you know, one even keel.
Yeah. Frankie Beverly, right? Joy and pain, sunshine and rain. So.
Pump it up, pump it up, pump it up. Yeah, great song. Let's talk about conflict. Now that's going to come up as well, and especially in the climate of our world currently. There's little strife at times, even between family members. There's conflict. How do you rise above conflict? How do you deal with it?
So, again, a lot of things come to choice of how you choose to see things, how you choose to perceive things, your environmental upbringing, your cultural development. And so the whole element of conflict and conflict resolution and dealing with it boils down to your emotional intelligence. You know, if you were raised to fight or flight everything that is presented to you, then you've never really learned how to deal or manage conflict. But if you were trained in emotional intelligence, self-awareness, awareness of others, I tell people there are 16 different types based on Elizabeth Myers, MBTI Myers-Briggs. If you were trained in how to respect other people's type, even though they're not like yours, and you may not even like them, right? But you respect that they are a different person, a different type. That's the beginning of growing your own emotional intelligence. I actually coach a lot of leaders specifically in emotional intelligence to figure out their gaps, because conflict is going to happen. And I mean, it's just going to happen. And how you choose to see it helps in how you choose to resolve it. And so if you see it as an enemy, if you see everything as a nail, then the only thing that you're looking for is a hammer. You know, you're just going to beat that nail. But if you also are able to see that, no, it's not a nail. There are 16 different other things it could be. So maybe you should use a velvet glove, a soft word, an iron hand. And so what are all of your choices to resolve this conflict? If you're only used to one or two choices, well, then you lack the tools in your toolbox to truly resolve conflict, because you only have two tools. You're not going to build a house with just two tools in your toolbox. And so you need to have a lot more tools at your disposal. Now, giving credit to the people who, like I grew up, right, in the projects, I didn't know until I did. So I was one of those people who did not understand how to manage conflict. Fighting was everything we were taught to do, right? So whatever happens, we used to say you can't get along and get a fair one going. Literally, if you can't get along, fight, period. That was it. That's how we resolve conflict. Now, in leadership, you can't have that. You can't be fighting all the time. You can't have your whole organization and your teams always fighting. And that's where the education, training, and development and self-awareness comes in to help to grow a person's EQ. And so as a coach, again, that's our responsibility is to help people navigate their headspace to get to the other side.
With your upbringing, would you say that was a plus for you in that you built early resilience, having to deal with a lot of challenging situations that maybe other children, teens didn't have to deal with? That elevated your level of resilience at a very young age.
Well, all experiences can give you a capability of some sort. So even the challenging and so-called negative experiences will give you capability. So I would say yes, my resilience, I had to go to school. I knew I was going to have to fight. I couldn't stay home. It was going to be a fight after school. Didn't know who with, but if somebody didn't like you, it was going to happen. And so just in the terms of fighting. And then, of course, I was a latchkey kid, right? So some things you don't know. And you don't even know you're poor, right? Until somebody tells you and explains it to you. So to that end, you have a ton of experiences. And based on all of those experiences that you have, you can now look at yourself, that's the self-awareness piece, and turn them into capabilities. And I think me turning a lot of those experiences from growing up into capabilities is what has given me the resilience.
You're in a situation with conflict. Something has come up at work. Let's say you're a leader and now you have two employees and they're going at it. Without getting into deep specifics, what's your broad view of resolving the conflict or the disruption?
So you don't know. You got to understand what started it. Where is it coming from? Why is it, right? Why is why the way it is? So step one is to listen. Listen. And I tell people, can you listen with your eyes and see with your ears? So that's active listening. That's not just hearing two people talking. That's hearing the message behind the words, hearing the emotion, hearing the nonverbals, seeing the nonverbals, and interpreting what you see. As a leader, that's a responsibility that you have, right? You don't have the luxury of just being passive about it and saying, I don't know, I don't understand. No, you get paid to know. You get paid to understand. You get paid to put that effort into resolving this conflict. So step one is to listen and see where that energy is coming from or going. And as a leader, you should have experience in resolving conflict. So now you get to rely on your experience, your years of resolving conflict, to be able to now begin the communication process, right? Intervening. And if they respect you as a leader, they'll listen to you. But if they just see you as a human being in a leadership position and they don't see you as a leader, they may not respect you as a leader because technically you're not. So to that end, I would say
that hurt.
Yeah, that's something I have a tendency to say on stage and speak truth to power. Just because you're in a leadership position doesn't mean that you're a leader. And a lot of times the truth comes out in that conflict resolution when two people, to your point, are going at each other and you have to step in between and they don't respect you. Well, there's a reason they may not respect you and you never addressed that prior to that moment. And that is you didn't do the work that you needed to do as a leader to be a leader.
I want to get to the
long
coaching.
Answer to your question, but it's part of the
it's
truth.
Clear. And it brings me to another question based on that. We're going to talk about the coaching process in just one short moment. But that individual who is in a leadership role, but not a leader, do you believe that most often, deep down inside, They already know that.
Some, not all. Some, like last week we said, every last one of us have a disorder, right? so some truly believe they're leaders, even though they're not. And then some who are not know that they're not, but they're going to fake it till they make it. Or for whatever reason, they got promoted, they're in that position, and they're just doing the best that they can. And so those are not negatives against them in that respect, because somebody hired them, right? So whoever hired them is also responsible for, hiring them. And so to that end, it's going to happen. But not all of them know that they're not qualified for the job.
Which is troubling.
It is, but it's reality.
It's reality.
And that's where leadership coaches come in. Not all basketball players will admit that they can't shoot worth a lick, but the coach is going to help them anyway. We got a Super Bowl coming up next week, and, supposedly it's the best of the best, but they're going to make mistakes. Somebody's going to drop the ball. Something's going to happen. They're going to create a foul. It's going to be a penalty, right? So they're not perfect. And that's why they have coaches, to decrease all of those challenges. And so, but they listen to their coaches. They listen to their coaches. And so leaders in a lot of these positions, or people in leadership positions, may never had a coach in their life. So who actually coached them as leaders?
Or did they?
You can't just read it in a book and think you know everything.
Right. Walk us through the coaching journey. Let's say somebody engages you. Tell us about that process.
First thing I like to do is what's called a chemistry call. And so a chemistry call is just us chatting, me listening to them listening to me, to see if we're even compatible as human beings. Because I'm going to delve into their space, and I'm going to create a brave and safe space. Do they trust me? Are they willing to say anything and everything, understanding that I'm bound by the International Coaching Federation ethics, and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do? So we do a chemistry call. After that, if there's an agreement, we agree on what? So are we agreeing to coaching sessions? Are we agreeing to quasi-coaching / consulting? Because I also do consulting. Am I doing a lot of also strategic advising, right? So that's a whole different leadership position in the company, that some leaders need coaching, consulting, and strategic advising. Once we come to all of that, it becomes an agreement. Technically, coaching does not occur unless there's agreement. Everybody that's certified knows that. So anybody that's being coached and there's no agreement, get an agreement, because you're not being coached, right? So there's the agreement. And then you're agreeing on price. Is it hourly session? Is it a package deal? Is it based on retainers? And are you coaching one person? Are you coaching a whole group? Or are you a organizational coach, internal coach, where a lot of people have access to you? So once that happens, now you start. I like to know, what are some of your goals and aspirations and desires, just to get that started. And then we start locking in on what can we achieve in a 45-minute session. And depending on the type of coaching I'm doing, it could be a lot longer than that. But you start. And most coaches understand that it's not for me to determine where this goes. It's like a tango. I don't lead the dance. I facilitate. I'll play the music, but the coachee actually leads the dance. And then we begin. And it's an intimate journey. It's a private journey. Sometimes it's a scary journey. There's a fine line between coaching and therapy, right? Therapy deals in the past, coaching deals into the future. But the client may want to talk about some things from the past. And so as a coach, you allow that to come up, but you allow it to come up with the understanding that we're moving forward, right? We're not dwelling into the past, but you'll use it to help them overcome in order for them to become. So that's kind of the gist of it. And, I generally do 6 to 10 coaching sessions and try to get to the heart of helping a person to achieve their objective. I don't believe that I have to coach you for 20, 30, a whole year. But if it's a consulting situation in a strategic advising, then that's different, because I'm not just helping you, I'm helping you to help your whole organization.
It seems like, and I guess this is with life in general, even in any relationship, It's all about expectations, managing the expectations, what somebody's expecting. Like you said, some kind of contract that is signed to manage those expectations. Is that really what we're talking about here?
Partly because the expectations change, and it can change in midstream while we're in the middle of coaching, because they may have an epiphany, an aha moment, or a discovery, or a transformation. Those are some words we use. And so the expectation just totally changed. But in the actual agreement, there's an expectation that I'm going to coach you for X amount of hours for this price to achieve these goals and objectives that you talked about. And here are all of the rules and regulations that I'm bound to. And here are the responsibilities as a coachee that you should also do. Take responsibility, hold yourself accountable, all of that kind of stuff, right? Do the work. And so if you do all of the stuff you're supposed to do, and I do all the stuff I'm supposed to do in the agreement, then we should be able to achieve the objective of getting you to where you're trying to get to.
So you mentioned the aha moment, the eureka moment. Personal question alert coming. Here we go.
Sure.
What was the last one you had for yourself? Doesn't matter when it was. Could have been last week, could have been last month, a couple of years ago, whatever it might be. But something you realized in yourself that was I didn't realize that. Whatever it is, good, bad, doesn't matter.
So one was, I was walking down the street in New York, 37th Street between 5th and 6th, and I came across Rock and Soul Music Store. And all kinds of memories flash back of when I was a teenager going there, and, just the whole energy of the music scene in the early 80s. And I had been looking for that store for 10 years. They used to be on 7th Avenue. And when I saw it, I was like, wow. And all of the emotion of being a DJ just started popping up. I'm like, I got to go in there. I need to talk to the owner. I want to make sure she's okay. Then I found out it was the 50th year of Rock and Soul. And so now all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I've come a long way. I was in a suit and tie when I went in there. When I used to go in there, I was in jeans and T-shirts or a hoodie. And so she even looked at me like, this kid from the hood who used to DJ is now an executive, but still likes DJing. And the aha moment is, I did all right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess that was the perspective, because you went there when you were younger, and here you are now. Most important question today. When you walked in that store, did they have any albums from Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock?
They had those albums. They had a whole, I did a commercial walking around with my, selfie video, tons of albums. Oh. Yeah. So the short answer is yes. But then they had everything else. They even had the Red Label albums, Enjoy. Oh yeah. I was a kid in a candy store.
Gotta tell you, gotta share, Reggie. I'm on the air now as a DJ, but back in the day, when you're describing, I DJ'd in clubs, in the Hamptons, all of that. One of my biggest regrets is I threw away all my records. I see your eyes. Yeah, I had them at a house that I sold 2.5 years ago. And it was a quick sale. I was like, hey, I got to get out. What am I going to, I'll just get rid of them. I'll never forget the day that I was driving home to that house and my neighbors are walking down the street with the albums. Hey man, thanks a lot. This is great. Look at this one. Look at that one. I'm like, I wasn't in a place. I should have put them in storage, but then again, now you got to deal with, climate and all of that. But looking back on it.
The reason why I'm shaking my head is I'm still a professional DJ. And, I have 4 1200s, right? And other controllers.
Techniques, by the way, you're talking, right?
So I get to play, even
nice.
After this show, if I want to go into the studio, and you gave yours away. I can only imagine the emotion that every now and then pops up inside of you.
Every time I walk by a store that sells records, I think about just started again. But I had, the promotional copies, the 12-inch, blah, 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 blah.
You're not going to get them again.
I'm not going to get them again. Let's just move on. How do we find you? How do we engage you? Even just start the conversation. with somebody if they want to change it up in their life?
Yeah. So if you want to coach, I would tell people just Google leadership coach, executive coach, and start learning, because it is a good chemistry fit when it's a fit. And you don't want the wrong coach. I get stories from clients that tell me, they wish they had me. I'm like, well, you have yours, right? But they never did a chemistry call. They never did a meeting of the minds. So start there and learn about coaching. On my website, I put out a lot of FAQs, frequently asked questions for people to just go to www.reggibullock.com, and it explains what coaching is, what it's not, all of the different nuances. And many of the questions that almost anybody would want to know about coaching, I answer them on my website. And of course, while you're there, I have my pricing packages for both coaching and for consulting, retainer. But that's the way to do it. Reach out. But most importantly, recognize that you need a coach. Yeah. Your friend that is gone from
just starting to lose you on the Wi-Fi connection here. It looks like. Oh, now you're back. Okay.
Okay. All right. So can you see me?
I got you now.
Can you see? All right. So yeah, I was just saying, go to the website. You'll see a lot of things, but most importantly, know that you need a coach and get yourself a coach. Just like a basketball, anyone that's professional, anything, has had multiple coaches. So if you consider yourself a professional in the business world or a professional leader, my challenge is, how many coaches have you had? Even one?
Interesting. Fantastic talking with you. I love how you're real about everything. ReggieBullock.com, and that's BULLOCK. ReggieBullock.com is the website. Appreciate talking with you today, and good stuff. Learned a lot.
Thanks, Steve. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, you're going to see me in your studio with those Techniques 1200s.
Come on down. All right, Steve.
We'll have a mix-off. How about that?
I don't mind.
All right. Thanks,
all right.
We'll be right back.
Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.